Good morning. We're in Putnam County today. We're in Palatka in Putnam County in front of the Putnam County Courthouse. We're standing in front of the Confederate Monument, one of the last in the state of Florida standing, the last remaining, I should say. Throughout recent history, relatively speaking, in world history, we've seen numerous revolutions and upheavals and uprisings, wherein, including our own, wherein the monuments, edifices, etc. were torn down by the mobs. We saw it in New York and Boston in the 1770s. We see it, just recently in the former Soviet Union. We're seeing it overseas in the Middle East. Right now, they're destroying their history and monuments at an incredibly rapid rate. Some of those go back thousands of years. So if it's possible to lose more than what we're losing, those people are losing a lot more because those monuments have been up for, again, thousands of years. The first stages of revolution are non-violent. We've been in that stage for probably anywhere from 20 to 30 years, maybe a little more. Begins with re-education, etc. For the last, certainly during the last administration, but easily the last 10 years, 5 or 10 years, we've been in the beginning stages of the violent part of the revolution. What we're seeing right now is mob rule, which has superseded the rule of law. The authorities are terrified of the mob. The mob will take things into its own hands, as it's shown on numerous occasions recently. Antifa, BLM, other factions of the left are now easily and readily identified. They're highly motivated. They're very well organized, very well funded. They're backed and aided by the mainstream socialist media. And they are highly capable of and willing to commit violence, as we've seen. Do it in a drop of a hat. And that's what we're seeing now. We're seeing a change, more or less, in our country. There's not anything that most of us are willing to do about it. This is a leftist upheaval against the establishment, the established government, and the government will either prevail or they won't. And it's too early to tell which way it's going to go right now. For the record, the reason why, and I've read some comments recently on some of these posts talking about the reason why these monuments were erected. Well, that's nonsense. It was never, and it never has been, some sort of KKK ruled or inspired plot in collusion with the UDC to erect monuments to keep anyone down. That's absurd. Part of the reason these monuments were erected in the early 20th, late 19th century was because of funding. The South was completely devastated. No one alive today can even imagine the reason or the result of such a conflict on such a level. You can't even fathom what that would do to a people. The North had a huge loss of manpower, but very little property devastation. The South, on the other hand, suffered enormous property devastation. Crops, houses, cities, towns, plantations, everything. Their entire infrastructure was completely ruined, and their infrastructure to begin with was never that great. It was always subpar. It was always rural, agrarian. So the reason why, in both North and South, that these monuments were built when they were was because the wounds were still raw. They had spent 4 years of going after each other, tooth and nail, to the bone, to the end. Just kill, 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 burn, 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 pillage, loot, rape, riot, whatever. I mean, just constant infliction of violence on each other. And people, the men themselves that fought that conflict, and their families needed time to heal. So they're not going to come home in 67 or 68 and say, oh, this was great, let's erect the monument. These guys had lost legs, limbs, arms, hands. Some of them had lost half their head or body or whatever it was. I mean, it was just horrible, horrible devastation, physical level. Can't even begin to imagine it. And they weren't at that point ready to, they didn't have the first reunion until many, many years later. And even then, it was hesitant. They were happy to meet one another and share old stories, but and they certainly did not want to start the conflict. Not one Rev or one Fed ever said, hey, let's start this over and get it done. They were glad that it was done. They were glad that they had fought and defended what they believed in, but they were glad it was over. So these monuments didn't come about until their children, the young of that age, were grown, and then they decided to erect monuments to the men and women who had been involved in that conflict. It wasn't, again, that's just absurd. It's an absurd thing. This wasn't to keep anybody down or to send a message to anyone. This was strictly to memorialize and you know, what they had done. So we're going to take a look at the monument. We're not sure. This is a beautiful area, beautiful courthouse here that we've got. I mean, it's just this oak tree. I gotta photograph the heck out of this oak tree. That thing is just incredible. Anyway, back to the monument. Okay, so we're looking at 61 to 65 are Confederate heroes. This says, although the flag they died to save floats not o'er any land or sea throughout eternal years shall wave the banners of their chivalry. Rhymes. And these are the flags they fought under. It's funny today because the revisionists and the people that will come later will say this flag wasn't there, that flag was, or the other flag wasn't. These were the flags. This was done in 1924. These people knew what flag they were flying under. This wasn't. These flags were not sold in Walmart or anywhere else. These were flags that were still alive. These are the flags that these men fought under, and many of these men were still alive. Their ancestors obviously were here to put this, erect this monument, and to create a factual historic record, which they have done. These are the flags that they flew under, that they fought under, that flew over them. I like this shot. It's pretty cool. The flags in the back, and that's just a straight up Reb soldier with the basic accoutrement. Nothing fancy. Just got his infield and probably took it off of some federal guy. And he's got a bayonet and a haversack. Not well supplied like federal soldiers. Barely had a uniform. Everything was ragged and threadbare and stitched together. This says, nor shall your glory be forgot while fame her record keeps. Go back and brush up on my skills here. Okay, we got cannonballs here, projectiles on all four corners. Those are straight up Napoleon round shots, and I'm not sure what these are. These may have been case shot. I'm not positive. They look a little big for personnel. They probably would have been fortification busters or fired from ships. Okay, and then here we go. Erected 1924 by Patton Anderson Chapter UDC with the assistance of William Ivers, CSA, and other friends as a memorial to the heroism, fortitude, and glory of the men who wore the gray in the 60s, with the hope that their love of country, devotion to principle, and fidelity to cause they believed was right may be an inspiration to people of every age. Wow, very cool stuff. You don't see that anymore anywhere. Very, very few of us have any of that. Very few. And that's to be expected. We live in a very homogenous society, a very diverse society that they don't care about honor and duty and all those sorts of things. They care about eating and surviving. There are not more important things to them. People in these days, in one time in our country, honor was everything, more than life. The principles for which they fought will live eternally. Unfortunately, maybe only in memory, but in any event, we got to see this. I'd never seen it before, and now that you always think you have time to see things and just amble through, but not anymore. You never know when something's going to be gone. Monuments that I visited less than a month ago, or maybe just over a month ago, are gone, absolutely gone. And when I visited them, there was no marching, there wasn't any of that stuff. They're just gone. So that's that for that. We're going to photograph it and photograph the grounds. This is incredible grounds. This is an incredible town. We're gonna check out some cemeteries and there's some museums here. Palatka is an extremely historic area right on the St. Johns River. So with that, we're gonna check it out. Oh, and then Brenda, if you're watching this all the way through, I just want you to know I love you very much.